Good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good
It's
morning,
Monday.
KO.
It's Monday, March 31st, 2025. I'm currently making sure that we are alive. I believe we are. We can see you. Say hello if you're here. I'm Julesy.
And I'm allegedly Stephanie. And we have allegedly passed to the end of Q1 of 2025, but are still not past the first 100 days.
Of Donald Trump's second term in the White House.
That stat is going to haunt me until we pass it because it feels like 50, 11 years have passed.
Yeah. Um, you know what? I actually think I don't know. Does it feel like 50? I just think so much of it is political theater that I try not to be emotionally invested in a lot of us. I'm also not a federal worker. I feel like I
Mhm.
understand it feeling very long for those who work directly with the federal government. But for me, I don't know.
I
I'm
think.
kind of like, because I did try to engage with my local state level government, that I realized, oh yeah, burn all this shit down.
We're going to talk about New York electoral politics today, aka our mayoral race. So,
Oh
speaking of
brother,
local,
oh
well,
brother.
Cuomo brother is right. A
With
Cuomo
Andrew,
brother is attempting to
yeah,
come back.
Andrew Cuomo is leading in the mayoral race. It's after what was it, a sexual
Sexual
assault?
harassment
Oh,
scandal.
yes, and after selling the state of New York upriver to the Republicans. Y'all
Yeah.
be trying to eat Kathy Holchuk up, but you're going to re-elect
We
Cuomo?
are not. I'm hoping we don't. And I have some positive alternative options that I would like
Oh,
to discuss today.
okay. Well, welcome to the United States of Deportation. We're going to kick it off talking
Ooh,
about the immigration stuff that is going on because people are getting kidnapped off the streets.
off the streets.
And
It with some plainclothes officers, aka people that are in. Can you imagine if somebody wearing this just came up to you and was like, "Come here," and snatched you and didn't identify who they
and
were?
and then like you just get moved across state lines and it doesn't
To
matter what the
Louisiana?
courts. Yeah, it's a they are sending people based on with tattoos to the what's country is that? El
I think they sent
Salvador.
them to Panama or El Salvador. Which
It's
one?
El Salvador. It's not Panama. Panama's not
Okay.
fucking with us.
Well, no, they
Uh,
sent the other deportees to Panama. They did,
uh,
and they're in the
uh,
hotel. They just have them
uh.
in a hotel for the past not 100 days.
And right now, what the Trump administration is doing is largely focusing on people with legal immigrant status. They're not even going
Yes.
after like whatever an illegal immigrant is, but they're going after college students with
Hmm.
visa status and green card status. And
Hmm.
Marco Rubio is just canceling it
Marco Rubio is
over.
also on a Caribbean tour to go tell all the Caribbean leaders, hey, tell your residents in the United States to walk around with their paperwork. That's what Andrew Holness, the Prime Minister of Jamaica, just decided to tell the Jamaican people. Listen, Huna and Foreign, have your paperwork.
And
Really?
the Caribbean
Really, sir?
presidents and prime ministers are just going for it. What did Barbados
Um,
say?
I will say Prime Minister Motley is not going for
Huh.
it. Prime Minister Motley is not going. Andrew Holness is overwhelmingly, in my opinion, walkless. Um, and I'm excited now that I have officially dual citizenship. Next Prime Minister run, I'll get to vote. So once I
What's
get my
wokeless mean? Because I saw woke. Well, because you say woke list, but I saw in Trinidad WOTLESS shirts. But that's a different word.
Whatless, Whatless and
WOT.
Walkless is WUKLESS. I think it's the same. Their accent, they like to
Yeah,
sing. So
wokeless.
Whatless people make no sense.
But currently, the White House administration, the Trump administration, is attempting to deport people based on perceived interaction with the pro-Palestinian movement,
Hmm.
and it's such a I don't know what is the word. what is the word? Because you have these institutions of power that wanted to position that Trump says is liberal. These institutions would position themselves as liberal and even progressive, just acquiescing and aiding and helping the administration and essentially kidnapping and its
Mm-hmm.
students, and they're like rescinding degree, like
Mm-hmm.
rescinding degrees, all this over. And I think this is also what is particularly dangerous about how within the black digital landscape this movement against the pro-Palestinian movement has been used, because it distills people for what's happening now. People are not going to care because it's like, oh, the immigrants, but y'all are next. If you say anything, we're moving into, and is this fascism? Is this authoritarianism? Ooh, ooh.
Authoritarianism, yes. Yeah.
So,
We are, because the whole point of deportation is a legal process. So to take like the feelings out of it out, deportation is a legal process. You cannot just say, "Hey, you know, Stephanie, I don't like that you wore that shirt. I don't like that your family's from Jamaica. I'm deporting you. I was born here." So technically under the current laws, you can't do that anyway. It is the legal process of saying like, "Hey, your visa has expired, for example, or you have violated a law." When you violate American law, they actually don't just deport you. They send you to American prison first. This happens to one of my family members. You serve a whole American sentence and then they deport you, which is very cruel. And there's a whole legal process. What they are doing now is they are skipping the entirety of the legal process. You're not getting a hearing. You're not getting the
no
ability.
jurisprudence. I love that word.
No,
No jurisprudence.
none. There's no due process. It should be noted that our laws are also very problematic, in my opinion, where you are not entitled in immigration court to a lawyer if you are not a United States citizen, which a lot of people don't know, which is also very frightening. They are currently deporting people to a holding kidnapping detention facility in Jena, Louisiana, which Jena, Louisiana is a small town in Louisiana that was made famous because of the Jena Six, and the racial tension in Jena, Louisiana. They are deporting people to small town Louisiana. Some of these people do not speak English, so now they're having to find translators because they're not entitled to lawyers. They recently had a man there who he spoke a certain dialect of, I believe, Cantonese, but it wasn't Cantonese. So it took them like 6 tries of them just speaking to this man, and this man is looking at them like, "Well, I was here to work. It says I'm allowed to work. Like, I'm confused as to why I'm here, but also like you can't understand me and I can't understand you." They are skipping all of that process. And despite what like right wing conservative immigrants themselves saying, "Oh, it's only people without paperwork," that's not true. To your point, it is people who have a legal right to be in the United States. They're one of the articles we'll talk about is 500,000 people collectively from Haiti, Venezuela, Cuba, and I'm forgetting the fourth country right now. They entered into the United States 2 years ago under a legal process that the Biden administration administered. They are legally allowed to be here, and the Biden administration actually did not want to renew that legal process. And Trump, instead of allowing them to be here 2026, which they are legally allowed to do, he has now rounded up and basically told people, "Hey, you need to self-deport, or by the end of April, we will fly you back."
Mm. Mm-hmm. And it's not a nice, cute flight. Like, you are going to a
No.
deportation center first. And it's like, it's not, I think the idea that this is only going to happen to immigrants because now they're moving into people who, there's a hierarchy to the immigrant status. They're going after green card holders. They're going after
Mhm.
people who've paid thousands of dollars into the traditional legal
Mhm.
immigration system and saying, you posted a pro-Palestinian tweet, we are canceling your green card and you are going back home. And
Mhm.
you're going back home by force. We're coming to pick you up and take you out. That
We're
girl
connecting.
from that Turkish national who was kidnapped off the street, she didn't even attend the protest. She just signed on to an op-ed.
There are also people that have never attended protests, never signed anything. Students, an Iranian student at University of Alabama, that they have now started deportation process with him. He's a PhD mechanical engineering candidate. Well, I would like to say I think we need a lot more mechanical engineers. The bridges are falling.
And then the thing is, like, they can cancel a visa. They can also cancel your citizenship. And
Yes.
Marco Rubio, as Secretary
Yes.
of State, just has this broad power, and he can overstep the courts. He can remove your due process. He can remove the jurisprudence that you are legally guaranteed access
Mm-hmm.
to. What stops them from canceling your citizenship and making you a
Mhm.
stateless person because
No.
of your interactions on the internet? And I want to say how scary this is by moving this out of immigration. My homeboy got banned from the Madison Square Garden properties. Let's look at this. Frank William Miller. I wear a shirt often. Capitalism ruins everything around me. My
Mm-hmm.
homeboy is a graphic tee designer. I have several shirts that, like, I used to have a Michelle Obama and a Maxine Waters shirts that he sells. But he was banned over a shirt he created in 2017 going into Radio City Hall to see the Cleo Soul show with his parents. He was stopped and they used facial recognition software because he created a shirt to say ban Dolan, and Dolan is the billionaire owner of the Madison Square Garden properties that include most of the
Mm-hmm.
live performance properties in New York City. And this man has a history of going after James Dolan has a history of going after people that he perceives to be his ops and banning them from his property with facial recognition software.
Which should frighten everyone because facial recognition software is inherently biased because it is coded to be biased. And also, you're not opting into it. You don't know that it's screening your face. Wow.
This is crazy. So, like, when I say this stuff has a direct impact, that when Trump does this, it means so many other entities are going to, like, follow suit, do as they please, and then be like, who gonna check me, boo? And you
Mhm.
and your birth certificate do not guarantee you
No.
anything in this climate.
Nothing. And I would go so far as to state because there has been, in my opinion, a very concerted effort by right wing propagandists to sow what already was discord for what it's worth, arguments amongst the diaspora. And they have utilized that argument online to sow like much more discontent. There's a lot of rightful things that need to be discussed, but to sow a lot of discontent among Black immigrants and Black Americans when they are start going after Haitians, which they already have. There is no flag on any of our forehead. So that means that they are just going after Black people at large. They'll start with Haitians because there's so much anti-Haitian rhetoric amongst Caribbean people, amongst Black American people, amongst white people in general. And starting with Haiti, because Haiti, unfortunately, due to hundreds of years of colonization, theft by colonizing powers, forced poverty, etc., deporting people to Haiti is easier because there is no current governing body to say, hey, you cannot treat our citizens this way. So they will start with Haitians, then they'll do Jamaicans, they'll go to the Nigerians. The money is not going to save any of us. And then eventually they'll go to Black American people that they find undesirable. And they're like, well, how do we even know that you're American? We don't know that.
Or we
And
don't
then,
care that you're American and this revokes your
exactly.
right to be a citizen of the state because you said
Mhm.
something against the state. They're not going to like justify it in with any legitimacy. They are just going to do what they
Mhm.
want to do when they want to do it. Now
Exactly.
I will say, Marco Rubio, if you go after your own,
He's that.
I
Listen,
might applaud you.
we
If
have to
you
talk about this because the
if
amount
you
of xenophobia that demographic is whipping up
if
within
they
Black
end if
Miami.
the Trump administration ends the Cuban exception rule for immigration,
It's already ended, but also they were the fourth demographic. Sorry that I forgot. Of those four countries that under the 500,000, it's Venezuelans, Cubans, Haitians. Who did I miss again? Let me just pull up the article because I'm like, how am I forgetting this? Okay, yes.
Colombians.
Nicaraguans. That's I was like, how am I forgetting? So 214,000 Haitians, 117,000 Venezuelans, 111,000 Cubans, and 96,000 Nicaraguans. The fascinating thing being a Miami Black is the Miami white Cubans at large in general are still advocating now against the most recent Cubans, which that has been wild to see because most of those people, their families, particularly like the grandparents' generation and then some Gen X as well, have entered into the United States under wet foot, dry foot, which Obama ended, doesn't exist anymore. Where as long
Mm.
as they had a dry foot on US soil, they were granted a pathway to citizenship, which they took. They literally got affirmative action just for themselves. No one, it didn't apply to nobody else. Literally growing up, you would see boats of Haitian refugees coming in. They're getting their paperwork. You see in the same boats of Cuban refugees, sorry, getting their paperwork. See the same Haitian refugees doing the same thing, getting sent back. And so now you're going to see likely large deportations of Cuban Americans and recent Cuban immigrants, which honestly, because there is so much racism amongst that demographic, it is encouraging a lot of xenophobia amongst Black people in Miami. Because Black people in Miami have gotten treated so bad by that one demographic.
No, but if you look at the labor history of Florida,
Mm-hmm.
quite literally, at the precipice of the civil rights movement, when there were labor rights gains for African Americans, South Miami created that wet foot, dry foot law
Mm-hmm.
for Cubans and allowed Cubans to come in. And they said, we'll civil rights for the Cubans. We're not giving
Mm-hmm.
any labor rights to the Black people. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, literally, the Cuban community has been used to disenfranchise, and they've been very willing participants to disenfranchise
I
the.
think used is being kind.
Huh?
Well, I think them being saying they're used as being kind and ignoring the nefarious nature that a lot of those people are descendants of plantation owners, which is why they're racist to begin with.
Well, well, well.
But
Trump
as
decided.
Jamaicans say, no listen, you
Yeah.
must feel.
Let's bring it back to the
Unfortunately.
Northeast. At NYU, where a mother of the founder of Mothers Against College Anti-Semitism. I'm sure she's a Chuck Schumer fan.
I pulled this article, so we have a few articles. Which shout out to Culture Work. She has a great Substack. So, I think like three of these articles about immigration specifically were from her morning newsletter this morning, and she's on TikTok as well. So excellent cultural analysis. I really like her work, and she had an immigration section that I thought was really interesting. And this is interesting for numerous reasons. So essentially, this very wealthy lawyer mother of an NYU student has decided to create a Facebook mob group where Mothers Against Anti-Semitism, which unfortunately anti-Semitism is now being watered down from the actual meaning, and there are actual anti-Semites running around, which is objectively wild in my
Crazy work,
opinion.
yeah.
Right. That's like if all of a sudden we were like, yes, we've let the Klan attend our Black Lives Matter rally. Why would we do that? That wouldn't make sense. But not my monkey, not my circus. One of the things that she has decided to do is she has 64,000 allegedly other mothers. I don't know how she's verifying that these people are all parents of NYU students. I think that's the first red flag. She has essentially gotten a main line to NYU administration. So if she or her group does not like anything, they go after it. So, for example, she decided that her son, his roommate, was somebody who had pro Palestinian beliefs. She got the roommate thrown out of the son's dorm, so that way her son could get special accommodations and have his own room. Which I'm like, how is that's going to go very well for him that everyone knows your son is a whiny brat? Okay. More nefarious, what she is doing is she's going after students who have particularly supported Palestine and have advocated for Palestine by encouraging NYU to deport these students. She has sent screenshots. She's telling on the school all the time. For example, she said, I just sent you $13,000 the other day. As a parent and a consumer, I'm outraged. To which the NYU admin, because she posted the screenshot, stated, if you ever have any issues with anything, please let us know. So they are directly accommodating her. And I think it's fascinating because it's not like she is the only one paying $13,000. NYU tuition is notoriously very expensive. The majority of these students are paying out of pocket. So I don't know why her 13,000 genocidal dollars are more important, but they're more important to NYU. Essentially, she is boasting online about having been able to forcibly deport people who she sees are undesirable. She's also a huge Islamophobe. She has admitted as much, that she is frightened of the hijabis. Anyone frightened of hijabis, I just automatically assume is
They
not
don't have
only a
a
bigot or
picture of
somebody.
this woman anywhere?
No, which I want to look her up. I figured we should look her up. Um, Anybody who is advocating and they are frightened, quote unquote, falsely of hijabis, which are women that wear hijab, I automatically assume are extremely jealous and don't know how to do any of their makeup. So it is objectively very wild that not only Columbia is getting the most flack for allowing the kidnapping of their students, NYU is doing the same thing at the behest of a parent and allegedly 64,000 other tangentially related parents, which that math can't possibly be correct. The student body is not large enough for all of those 64,000 people in her Facebook group to be current parents of students.
Pillow face, like I thought. There we go.
Mm. It's also fascinating because she is a lawyer, and it's how people weaponize the systems to benefit them, but also to actively discriminate against others. She is breaking, we have very loose, for what it's worth, unfortunately, in this country, very loose privacy laws. We don't actually have national privacy laws, but we do have some. She is actively breaking a lot of New York privacy laws by essentially going out and doxing these students to the school. And I would say all that to say because NYU and Columbia are very notable schools that a lot of students aspire to go to. I hope because now it's March 31st, there's still plenty of time. If you got accepted already into those schools, then maybe you make a different decision because clearly these schools don't care about anybody that actually wants to use their voice for anything and may likely put you in a harmful situation for no reason.
Definitely mask up, cover your hair when you're going to protest. But it's
Well, in
meant
Columbia, they're banned masks now at
it's
Columbia
meant to
University.
it's meant to distill people. It's
Mhm.
meant to make people docile. It is meant to encourage people to not engage in any sort of protest or standing against the government. This is crazy,
This is crazy.
and people are going for it. So now we have the news article, which we already talked about.
Yeah. So we basically talked about this. I do. So this is the most recent article. The article under this actually shows that the root of this pardon problem, started with Joseph Robinette Biden because
Mm.
he instituted this program, which it's a good program. The program essentially was to deter people from crossing the Texas-Mexico border is an actually very dangerous task. Like people are not doing that because they're willy-nilly just like, okay, I'm just going to do this. They're doing that because they are fleeing some type of persecution. They're seeking asylum, etc. You have a legal right to asylum, which a lot of people don't realize. This country does offer that. So it's not illegal for you to do that. You are seeking asylum to basically alleviate all of some of border patrol's work because so many people in recent years due to the US imperialism have been crossing that border. The Biden administration instituted a new plan which stated, hey, you guys can fly in through Miami, through the state of Florida, and we will put you on what we call parole, which means you have 2 years to be under this program and then seek legal immigration status. You have legal status right now. You can seek further legal status through another channel. So in 2024, the Biden administration declined to extend that. And now Trump is attaching himself to that, saying not only are we obviously not going to extend it, instead of allowing it to go to 2026, we're ending it now and we need self-deportation or we will forcibly remove you.
Some of the ways in which Trump has been able to kind of hit the ground running with immigration is because it was always set up to be able
Mm,
to do
yeah.
what he's doing. Because previous presidents were enacting much harsher
Mhm.
immigration policy without the political theater.
So now you're just getting the political theater and then the random kidnapping is new. But all of what they're doing sans going after what they are trying to term political dissidents slash quote unquote lumping people into terrorism. That law is from 1700 is objectively wild that
Mm.
that's even being brought up. But they are now basically targeting people based on national origin as well. So they have anybody that's been vocal for Palestine in one bucket. And then if they're just like, you know what, actually, we just don't like the look of you, they are now going after people. So this is the PhD candidate I was talking about at the University of Alabama. His name is Alezra Daruti, 32. He was picked up because his visa was revoked in 2023, which when you first hear that, you're like, oh, so you have overstayed your paperwork. It's actually normal. Our system doesn't work very good. Under the current system, according to his lawyer, yeah, lots of students get their visa, quote unquote, revoked. It lapses, but as long as you're in school, they allow you to stay, which is why he's been here pursuing his PhD in a field that we need. We need more engineers.
Mm. Mm, mm, mm,
So
mm, mm. Yeah, they're just picking up people, brown people at this point, and making cases against
basically,
them because of, the xenophobia that naturally exists amongst the American population. We need another party because what are the Democrats up to? Well, Only 34 Democrats signed on to a letter on ICE making students disappear. Why can't you just say on ICE kidnapping students? Like, why all the extra syllables for what's really going on here?
It's also interesting because I would say that like corporate media, the level of like trying to water down what's actually happening is also trickling in a little bit to independent media, where I wonder if independent media is trying to duck and dodge being flagged for takedown. Why they're doing that, I don't agree with it at all, but I have noticed that certain news sites that are independent media, the headlines have been much less direct than they used to be. And I wonder if that's like tied to like the entire attack on journalism.
And this is
We're like,
34 students for the whole of Congress. This is the House and the Senate. Only 34
yes,
students, or Democrats
Democrats, yeah.
rather, have signed on to a letter demanding answers about the arrest of Tufts University doctoral student Ramesia Ozturk in Massachusetts.
The wildest thing to me is people, I'm always curious about people's willingness to disassociate and be like, well, it's not happening to me. It's not happening to me. And I'm like, if this person looks like you, this person has similar views to you, even if the person doesn't look like you, the likelihood that it eventually is going to happen to you is more likely than not. Like the only people that are should be, if they want to be deplorable and awful and immoral, being like, whatever, I'm fine, are cishet white men. And even then, you see how they're trying to act like Luigi is light skinned, which is crazy. So I'm like, are you even safe as a cishet white
They
man?
trying to other Luigi Mangione. That is crazy
But like, he's not
work.
white anymore. Like, he's white.
And I also think they're trying to drag out that case to
Mhm.
get people to not care anymore.
Which I think that's going to backfire on them because people are heavily monetarily invested. He has one of the largest legal funds via donation. People are sending him all, whatever various pictures, all those things. I don't think people are going to easily let Luigi go.
Mm.
Luigi is like their bright spot, a lot of people's bright spot of hopefulness, which
Somebody's asking why are so many, obviously not all Black Americans, celebrating what is happening. Hold on, the comment just disappeared. Celebrating all this. That's confusing to me. Was seeing the people on Tariq Nasheed's socials rejoicing about deportations. Well, in the year 2025, why are we paying attention to Tariq Nasheed?
I
Respectfully,
don't think a
like,
lot of that is real. That's
why
my
are
always
we
like hot
paying
take.
attention to who's engaging with Tariq Nasheed? He has a movement that is, he tried to siphon a movement from ADOS, which had a huge anti-immigrant stance. And so Tariq
Mhm.
Nasheed's FBA also, because they're just miserable, nasty, disgusting people, are anti-immigrant. That's what they took from ADOS. That's what they ran with. They sit on the internet and call everybody tethers, not to be taken seriously.
Yeah. And I personally, I've never come across, not that it doesn't exist, that's not what I'm saying. In real life, I have yet to see somebody hold those visceral, nasty views in real life because in real life, most people realize there is no stamp of American birthright on you.
Mm.
Like that's the real, like, if we're getting rounded up, no one is gonna be like, okay, descendant of chattel slavery, specifically in Alabama or in Jamaica or in Haiti or just colonization descendant in Nigeria. That's not realistic. However, I find like him and his online persona that he used to be like a VJ. So I just find him to be
He
like this
used to
very
get on the internet and he was on TV talking about here's how to be a Mac Daddy. Like, this is the man
like
that
I
you
don't
want to
take him
pay
seriously.
attention to on politics. He's a grifter. He's a scammer. He got a biracial baby mama.
Oh,
I like. Let's forget about that man. Why are we paying attention to him in this year? Like, block all of him and all his bots. I
yeah.
can't believe there is a subset of like actual human beings that like listen to this man on like his radio show.
He has a
I
radio show?
I had a friend who found out the man she was dating regularly listened to Tariq radio, and I was like, ooh, nasty work. Nasty work. Oh, I felt so bad for her. I was like, I had nobody to tell because I don't think anybody understands how bad it is to find out that the man you had a child with
Oh
after you had a
no.
baby. And this man
Oh,
regularly starts his morning listening to Tariq Elite Radio.
anyone calling themselves elite, I again back to the level of seriousness. The level of seriousness is unserious. And I think again, I think deep, and I've always said at the base of like what originally was these movements, I think there's actually like truths there, and there are things that like need to be stated. Like America has done a very good, the American government, very effective. It's not good because I don't agree with it, but a very effective concerted effort to sow discord amongst the very few Black immigrants. There aren't that many of us. We're just very loud. We're extremely loud. There are, I think, on
We
total.
which
Well,
which
well,
immigrants
me,
which immigrants are
me and the
extremely
rest, not
loud?
not the descendants
I feel
of
like
an American
honestly,
here.
I'm gonna
I
tell you
think we're
when
just
it
very
comes
loud.
to internet discourse about the Black community and Black immigrants, they are talking about Nigerians. Like
That's
nobody,
a
like
conversation. I will not poke at our cousins at this point in
they
time.
are
I do think
talking.
Caribbeans have
Oh,
assimilated a lot more. Because Caribbean people are also descendant of chattel slavery, so we understand. Hello, the problem in the room is always colonization, the white person in charge. We know that on a functional basis. I do think there are rightfully critiques to be had about Black immigrants that willingly want to separate themselves and are like, oh, well, I'm better, I'm doing this. That's foolishness. I will say those types of people, it usually leaves their mind after they're here in this country 5-10 years. They realize like, don't nobody give a damn which
and
boat you came from or whatever.
honestly,
Black is black is black.
y'all are never gonna get me to see it for a movement. I don't care if it's black, white, purple, yellow that engages in bigotry. I am never gonna see it for ADOS.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can tell me. There's no information you can provide for me. There's nothing. So please don't be in the comments telling me what I need to hear or read or learn about any movement when I've been on the internet since 2010. And I've
Mind
been
you,
doing
this
the
is a
work I've
black
been
community.
doing since 2010. As an
Yeah.
African American historian, as a person who does read before I talk, don't tell me what I need to like.
Yeah. It's that.
No,
And I
I don't
would say it
do
in a nicer way,
bigotry.
but
I don't do the anti-immigrant sentiment because
yeah.
we're going to talk about. We're going to do a video on Patreon about segregation
Yes.
and the uptick in conversation about that. But honestly, I think a lot of the online discourse, I think in real life, you might hear people, particularly like boomers, who kind of bristle about their perception of how immigrants of any color, just immigrants at large, have
Mm.
come into this country and been given benefits. And I think there is a particular um validity to their sentiment, even though it is largely fueled by disinformation, especially for older folks who, when the job market opened up to Black people in the 1970s, were met, depending on my dad's from Florida. So, like, yeah, in Florida, you were met with with not being able to get a job, but not really because of Black immigrants. You were engaging largely with the Cuban market. And the white, we should clarify, there's a very particular type of Cuban who's been able to
White Cubans,
use,
yeah. And they will tell you as well that they are in their spirit is white.
yeah,
But yeah.
like there is I understand the sensitivity that African Americans have towards the way, we'll talk about this in the next video, but
Mhm.
I saw a video from somebody who was talking as an influencer. They were talking about being Nigerian and being Nigerian American and why they don't engage in diaspora war conversation. And I thought, I understand what you're saying, but I also think what you're saying highlights for me why African Americans could be sensitive about this topic, because this person is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha, and that is a part of African American culture.
Mhm.
And African Americans are one of the few cultures that can't really gatekeep their culture. Like everyone gets to come in and participate in ways that we don't get to go to other people's cultures and participate. Also, people get to decide when they want to associate as members of our
Mhm.
culture in ways that we don't get to decide when we want to associate as members of other cultures. Like there is a flow in and out, and it creates this vacuum for disinformation to really do a lot of
Mhm.
dirty work to get people to turn this sort of vulnerability or sensitivity into something very nefarious. I don't think that justifies us being xenophobic or participating in our own versions of bigotry, but I do understand at the root where it comes from.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Half of my cousins are half, so half of them are Black American. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
also interesting, and I always say like it's definitely regional. Like Black immigrants are not going to Utah. They're not going to Alabama. They're going like we do, particularly chain migration for safety reasons, etc. So New York, you have a lot of Black immigrants across the diaspora. Miami, a lot of Black immigrants, particularly from the Caribbean. Houston, a lot of Black immigrants, particularly from
Oh, the
Nigeria.
Nigerians are going everywhere. They're in Utah. They're in
You know,
Montana.
some of them are brave. They're
They're
very
in
brave.
South, and if you see a black person in the Dakotas, I guarantee you, 10 out of 10, they're either Haitian or Nigerian.
Listen, not in large numbers.
The black immigrants, no, not in large numbers, but
Not in large, not in large
they're
numbers.
going to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. They're going to Minnesota. You
The
know,
Somalis are in Minnesota, yeah,
yeah, the
because
Somalis are in
that's where they.
Minnesota. If you come
But
over refugee status from a
mm,
conflict area, you don't get to pick where you go, so
you
you
don't
will
get,
end
yeah.
up in
They,
Boise,
but the thing is,
Idaho.
putting
Yeah,
them in the cold is nefarious, in my opinion. I was like, how would you put these warm weather people in this cold place? But I say all that to say, a lot of the disinformation stems from a lot of people. Unless you live in a larger city with a lot of other Black immigrants, there's not actually any crossover. Like, there's no meeting of like. The first time I met Gabriel was the first time he met an actual Jamaican person. And he's from South Carolina. And I was like, oh, yeah, we don't really go over there. And he's like, oh, there's a Jamaican restaurant in Greenville. There's one Jamaican family in all of Greenville, South Carolina. And I said, oh, I wonder what their last name is. Or probably, maybe my dad might like know of whoever. And I'm like, a lot of the disinformation is rooted from that. And then again, the American government's entire goal is to disenfranchise, in my opinion, Black American people from ever getting reparations.
that's
So
so
they
funny
throw
because
all of these things.
if you're a black person from South Carolina, you there's a very high chance that you have a Caribbean ancestor, like someone in the last 100 years that either was forcefully migrated or voluntarily migrated. Because there's been a labor exchange between like
Mm.
Barbados and South Carolina in particular, but there's been a labor exchange that lasted post emancipation between the Caribbean and the southern United States. And so I don't know. I've always had a Jamaican in my back pocket, and I grew up in Delaware, so like,
There's some. I have family over there.
yeah, meeting a Caribbean person wasn't. I mean, my dad's also from Florida, so you go back to Florida and you're just
No,
naturally
lot of us.
interacting with different communities. I had a Trinity homegirl in high school. But yeah, the Caribbean community, I just, from my part, and my mom is from New York City too, so I think culturally, just because I have parents from those two places,
Mm.
and as a lover of Black history, I'm not to invalidate the fact that there are other Black Americans who come from areas where they are not experiencing people from outside of their community. But South Carolina in particular, I have met so many people who will like have a mother. What's this guy? Where's his mother? From Guyana. Let me get
Cool
that up.
Clay.
His mother immigrated in the 1950s to the United
Mm.
States. And it's not uncommon to have, but he doesn't at all. But she immigrated in a way where she completely assimilated to American culture.
Mm.
So he, even though that's a very close family connection, does not have any connection to his Caribbean heritage.
No.
And so, but but it is interesting when people kind of put it. That's why I'm like the Caribbean thing, man, because we've been exchanging whether it's
For a
black
long time.
bodies or black
Yeah.
laborers
We
back
exist
and forth.
together.
Like
The story of chattel slavery exists. Like it would be nonsensical to tell the story of Caribbean slavery without tying in the United States and vice versa. Like it exists together. It's one trade route, literally.
and
Like
particularly with Jamaica before, when it was the magistrate of whatever and it was a British colony.
mm,
It's not uncommon for, you look at the civil rights movement. Stokely Carmichael was from Trinidad.
mhm.
There were Bajans.
Shirley
There
Chisholm
were
is half Asian, half. I always forget. It's a smaller island. I always forget what the
St.
other island.
Vincent, I believe.
Oh yes, I think so.
Or
Yes,
St.
yes,
Kitts, maybe.
I think
Yeah,
so.
like there's just a lot of back
Yeah.
and forth, particularly. I think that
Yeah. There's a lot of learning of each other.
the
Yeah.
advent of West Africans in the mid 90s, I think greatly changed the conversation around immigration, particularly for Black people, and really sped up this anxiety that Black Americans have. Because then a class of Black immigrants came in who had a higher GDP or higher
Income
income.
level.
Yeah,
And it's not everybody. Because
yeah.
whenever I point that out, people are like, who's rich? And I'm like, stop the foolishness. You're going home for debt to December. And I see the compound. Like, oh, look, we could look at the numbers and say all that. But I think the classism part is not what's discussed. So it's more so like a classism issue. And because largely, I think the rest of the diaspora wrongfully does not or refuses to, in some ways, recognize Black Americans as their own ethnicity, because that would solve half the problem.
Oh, and
Having language around that, but
Fran is saying they read Force and Freedom, and I feel like I have that book. Yes, because it's by Kelly Carter
oh,
Jackson.
interesting.
I do. Is it? I feel like it should be right up there because I literally read that not too long ago. About abolitionists, black abolitionists, and the use of
To Fran's
violence.
point, there was a lot of cultural exchange born out of resistance. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
there's a
Like the civil
huge.
rights movement inspired a lot of the Caribbean and vice versa. And then the Haitian Revolution is what inspired the majority of slave rebellions,
Mm,
of everyone being like, "Oh, we too can be free." So
mhm.
there is a lot more care than Mr. Former VJ.
Don't let a big-headed Negro with a kind of cute smile. Like, I mean, I get the man is objectively like okay looking, but the way he's been able to like swindle his way into prominence
Yes,
blows
it's
my
nefarious.
mind.
It's nefarious.
It's that like I was already over that many people watch Hidden Colors and like the homophobia in it didn't bother them. The misogyny in it didn't bother them. It was just like par for the course. I'm accepting of this rhetoric.
But yes, I think we should continue. I think it's also interesting too, like looking at the root of where disinformation comes from and then who gains something from said disinformation.
Let's get into the New York mayoral race, and I'm gonna let Stephanie, as a resident of New York City, explain to us the shenanigans, the fuckery, the
Back to
gassing
Deborah
of
Cox.
your flabbers that's going on in New York
It's
City.
gasted. My flabber's gasted. Back to Deborah Cox, who I got to see last weekend. The weekend before. How did we get here? Nobody is supposed to be here. Um, so former Governor Cuomo has decided that he would like to grace us with his presence after his scandal, which occurred in 2021, which is how we got current Governor Holschel, who is not doing the best job. Nobody voted for her. That's how we got her. So, for context, we are now, and I think New York, for all of our problems, such as the rodent infestation that occur and exist in New York does one thing well that I hope we can mirror in other cities. And the reason why I specifically brought up articles from the Working Families Party is the Working Families Party, which I think, to summarize, a good comparison of them is they are as close to any European Labor Party as the US has. So
Yeah.
labor parties in Europe are for working class people, etc. AKA, if you are not part of the 1%, you're more likely either working class or closer to working class than you want to realize. Our middle class is precarious at best. It's not actually like a real class structure here in the United States. So the Working Families Party, I would say, is beneficial to most, if not all, regular people.
Mm.
So with that, the Working Families Party exists in the state of New York, Wisconsin, Ohio, and I'm missing one. Hold on, I had it pulled up. New York. Where are we? Do-do-do-do-do. I said Ohio, I said Wisconsin, I think, oh, Oregon. So they operate in those four states currently. They are, hopefully, will be operating in more states. One of the things when we talk about third parties is rightfully people point out, oh, why does the Green Party or whatever third party only pop up during the presidential campaign? Like, that's not helpful. Obviously, they cannot win, etc. They need to start local and build momentum that way. The Working Families Party does that. So I think they're a really good example of people who, if you go on their website currently, they will show you all their candidates, where they're running. They actually have success here. I only speak for New York. I have lived in areas, districts where our representative was from Working Families Party. So they do their job. Now with that, one more thing to note, because I think a lot of New Yorkers don't know this, and honestly, I'm not even gonna lie, I'm, as a lawyer, still not fully clear on why we have ranked choice voting. We have ranked choice voting. I think ranked choice voting is very complicated for no reason. Essentially, it was instituted our last mayoral election, 2021. That is how Eric Adams won. Most people did not understand what it meant. I don't know why we have it. I will do some research. I don't know, but it's still here and it's here again.
I feel
Essentially,
like I remember seeing a video from Jamel Bowie where he
Mhm.
said it makes sense if it runs properly. Is ranked choice voting where like you vote and then like the top three candidates move forward based on percentages? and then
something
you
like
whittle
that.
down from. Do you have an explanation for it?
So we have, which is interesting because both of these articles, none of them explain what is ranked choice voting. And I'm like, so this is the root of the problem. Like, you're still not going to explain it to people. We get to select 5 people for ranked choice voting. And then the top three, to your point, is they then choose from the top three. But what I'm confused about is how that goes about. And that's how we got to this problem. So I will get clear on that myself because our
But
Democratic
how does it
Parliament.
become a problem? Because then the person with the most votes still wins.
No, because so what? Okay, so to talk about the article, that's how it should work. That's not how it works, essentially. So, what the article is stating, in one of the Working Families Party, what they are currently doing is they are endorsing 4 people. In May, they'll whittle that down to 1. However, all 4 people, they have gotten them to agree and to state, hey, tell your constituents, no matter what happens, to not rank Governor Cuomo or current Mayor Eric Adams, because if you write either of them, you're still
Oh.
getting points. And see how that is not what anyone would initially think. Because if I have to rank somebody, obviously, I'm not obvious. Well, obviously, the harasser would get ranked higher than Eric Adams, the scammer. But they're
Oh, so that's how you
not
get. So it's
necessarily-
like the Grammys, where like
yes,
if
yes,
enough people put you on the list, even if they put you at number 4, you can
you're getting
still win because you
you're
got enough
getting
points. People
yes. And to
listed you.
Kano's point, it works. It's just poorly executed. Maybe that's what it is as well. I next for Thursday, I will find an article that explains how it's been executed because I'm going to be quite frank. I'm not fully understanding as is evident right now. But yeah, so their whole point is do not ever, for any reason, write in Cuomo or Eric Adams. That will allow either some of the people they're endorsing to move forward,
So
or you're at least get somebody better.
okay, so you put
Yeah.
4 people on your list when you rank your top
5.
4.
You get 5. You get 5.
So that's why aren't they not running 5 people so they could just jam up the top 5 with their people?
That is a good question. I think they had criteria and they were like, hey, you don't meet this criteria, we're not running you, because the article then basically, it's the New York Times. So they're always like, what about the Dems? So in the article, they essentially were like, well, this is going to hurt some of the Democratic candidates who didn't make their endorsement list. So I think they just were like, yeah, and those candidates aren't for working families. So no, I think it was a point of principle to them, was my understanding. Essentially, I think 2 things to point out. Essentially, how it works in New York, if you live in the state of New York, the Democratic primary is our mayoral race. A Republican is not going to win. This is not Giuliani time. It's not going to happen. Although New York City is ever increasingly growing more conservative, which is shocking. It's old New Yorkers are becoming more conservative, which is an interesting thing. So with that, Working Families Party, although they are not Democrats themselves, they will put forward Democrats sometimes, and they will run on a Democratic ticket depending on if they think they can win, which I do think is smart on their end. And then who they're running now, let me pull up my notes so that way I wanted to highlight these people. The 4 people that they are running are, hold on, because one of them
Do you
used
want
to
me to
be
go
my
back to
rep.
the article?
Yes, please. I think it's like at the top. Let me zoom in. Okay, yeah, it's like right under the picture, and then I'll read it really quick. Okay, cool. So we have Zoran. Oh, girl, I can't see. Hold on. Can you
Zoran
zoom in?
Madani, Zoran
Thank you.
Madani, a Queens Assemblyman, Zelnor Myrie, a Brooklyn State Senator,
Mhm.
Brad Lander, the City Comptroller, and Adrian Adams, the City Council Speaker.
Yes. And currently, right now, out of the 4, Zoran Madani, the Queen's Assemblyman, he has the most likelihood to succeed. He is ranked currently right now just under Cuomo. He is a Democratic Socialist. I like his policies. Zelner Myrie was formerly my rep. He's great. I think, unfortunately, him and Adrian Adams, they have the same issue. They don't have enough public visibility currently, and you only have 3 months. The Democratic primary is in June 24th, I believe. I don't know if in 3 months they're going to be able to get it, but they also have good policies that we can stand behind. I'm not familiar with Brad, the city comptroller. Comptroller means you are basically should have a grasp understanding of math and on the budget. We need a reallocation of our budget. That's great. It's going to be interesting what is going forward, because since Zoran Madani, he is leading. He's on TikTok. He's understanding like, hey, I have to do social media. I have to get the vote out. He is very out and proud democratic socialist. So all the things that he's running on are considered leftist policies. So Cuomo right now is playing basically like hit the mouse of like, oh, the leftist, because he's trying to get the largest voting bloc of New Yorkers right now, which kind of fall towards centrism, which is fascinating because New York is supposed to be seen as like this leftist space in the U.S. and New York is largely not hasn't lived up to that in a long time. And so this is an article from New York Times specifically about can Zoran Madani, a socialist and TikTok savant, become New York City mayor? And so I had pull over here. So basically, his campaign's core three staples are free buses, great, rent freeze, and city owned grocery stores. The reason for city owned grocery stores is the price of eggs in New York. On Sunday, I saw some for $11.99, $12.99, and then the one grocery store realized, like, you know what, screw everybody else. I'll just undercut everyone, $4.99. That's the lowest eggs I've seen in months. So, and we have varying, depending on you, if you live in what do they call it? A food desert. If you live in a food desert, depends on like the quality of groceries you have access to. A lot of black neighborhoods. I live in what's left of a predominantly black neighborhood. A lot of the black neighborhoods, the produce is extremely expensive. The meat is extremely expensive. Poultry is extremely expensive. But if you walk 15 minutes to a gentrified neighborhood, everything is cheaper. And the grocery stores are doing that because they assume that you are on WIC or on food stamps, etc., and that you're not paying for it. So who cares if they jack the price up? Even though if you are on assistance, it's still a set amount of assistance. So they are essentially running a low-level scam, racketeering. So that is currently what we have. I think it is interesting. The article also pointed out last election that 27% of registered voters voted for the mayor. So if he is able to get people to actually go outside, I think he does stand a chance. He's advocating for things everybody wants, both the gentrified and
Yeah.
the gentrifiers. The
It,
gentrifiers
it
also can't pay the rent.
it talks about here,
So
while many of his progressive, oh no, it was up further. They were saying something about triple, maybe it's right here. Campaigns typically target so called triple prime voters who have cast ballots in 3 consecutive primaries. Mr. Madani has turned his attention to those who do not regularly hear from political campaigns. He is betting that his unrelenting focus on the cost of living. Ooh, what did I just do?
oh, girl, I thought it was me. Thank
No.
God.
He is betting that his unrelenting focus on the cost of living will resonate with people who feel ignored by the government, a strategy he hopes will appeal to disaffected Trump voters, especially in the working class neighborhoods outside Manhattan.
I think if he gets the people in Brooklyn and Queens, he could win. Because again, what we don't need anybody that already tried this. They tried this, they didn't do a good job. I don't want to go back. Cuomo had his PowerPoint presentations during COVID that everyone appreciated, and he also does have very inappropriate allegations. Like I don't. There's no need to go backwards. Let's have somebody new with new ideas. I wish I'd pulled it up. I forgot. I meant to send it to you. My friend that also works in news, she had sent me a couple months ago where they looked at the 2024 election and how New York City voted, because the assumption is New York City is blue, which it is, but about 30% of New York City residents voted for Trump. And so there is a rise of Trumpism in New York. There's a rise of like, what about we, the white people, etc. However, what is skewing New York to be continuously at least liberal, if not the people that are holding increasingly progressive views, surprisingly, are the young white people that are gentrifying these neighborhoods. So the people causing a lot of the problem vote progressively, and I think likely would vote for him. And then we would have to, grapple with, y'all know y'all gentrifying and busting up the neighborhood. Which maybe some mediation can help that. I don't know.
I am excited to hear that there is a moving, smaller party that is found a way to kind of build out its base. Because essentially, I think we do need to get, if anything comes out of this treacherous time we're in, we need more than two political parties dominating the
Yes.
political sphere. I think one of the issues for the Democrats is that they've just absorbed too many people who are not Republican. And they are both the party of people that just want PR moments. And then if anybody wants to do something for the people, they get absorbed up into that party, and then their chutzpah to like be for the people gets snatched up with it.
Yeah. And
So
the Democrats have shown that they are fine with the status quo. And I've seen other people say this, so this is not an original thought. And we might have shown an article when we first started this series that said this, that most of the Democrat representatives in the House and the Senate are more comfortable with a Trump presidency than a Bernie presidency. Bernie, with all of his specific genocidal problems that he really has let a lot of people down, outside of that, it is objectively wild that only 34 Democrats, was the stat on the other article, signed the letter saying, hey, stop kidnapping students. Like, on its face, the Democrats are not the party of working class people. They're not the party of families. They're not the party of middle class people. They are the party of status quo, rule of law, and capitalism still, which the Republicans are also a party of capitalism. So, not giving them a pass.
well, that brings us to the close of today. If you're here, come on over to the Patreon, either Stephanie or mine. We're going to talk about segregation and integration. It's a busy day today on a Monday.
I know this in hindsight. This was a lot on a Monday. But I
But we're
appreciate
doing
y'all.
it. We're committed to it. We hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing to the YouTube, subscribing to the Twitch, and just being awesome and joining us. We will
Yeah.
see you on
Thursday.
Yes,
Right?
on the other side, Thursday
Oh,
morning.
oh.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was like, are we not going to be here? We'll see y'all on Thursday. Have a good week.
Bye.